Yo, microphone check 1 2. Microphone check 1 2. Yes, yes, y'all. This is your boy DJ Mad Scientist. And yes, I am back this week. And good news, I'm almost on time. Almost on time. Almost made it on time. I'm committing myself to really getting this down because many of you guys know that follow me. I'm new to this kind of thing. Okay. I'm new to YouTube. I'm new to this type of content creation. I'm also new to um all the financial benefits. I'll be totally honest with you. Um yeah, I'm kind of new to the financial benefits, which is why I wasn't on last week because I'll be totally honest with you. I was about to stop doing these. Why? I'm a DJ and I make pretty good money as a DJ. And I'm also a radio host and I make pretty good money as a radio host. So YouTube is something that I never thought I would ever want because I really didn't understand the financial benefits. I'll be totally honest with you. I didn't understand the financial benefits. I knew that there was financial benefits, but I kind of assumed that the people making like Mr. Beast is a legitimate billionaire, okay? And he's on YouTube. So I know that that could happen, but the problem with me going to his channel is I'm saying to myself, I don't know if I want to put that much time into YouTube. It's like a high level of it requires a high level of engagement and content creation. And I was like, I don't know if I really want to I don't know if I really want to be that engaged in YouTube and creating that kind of content. And I definitely am not really, really good at video production. So I'm really great at music. I'm really great at writing. I'm really great at DJing and being entertaining. But all of that, none of that includes video production. So I said to myself, you know, maybe it's not for me. What brought me back was even at the level that I'm at right now, which is a small channel, it's considered a small channel. You guys are catching me at the beginning of what I hope to be something way bigger, okay, down the line. But you guys are catching me at the beginning, okay? And I appreciate everyone that comes through. I appreciate everyone who comments. In fact, um, I was also going to cut my marketing that I do on Fridays at 6. And someone commented and said, I actually want to see if I can find this person's name because I think it's important. It's an important lesson, even for those who either come here for entertainment or who come here for, learning a lesson, right? If I can find the comment, I hope I can. Well, this person commented and was like, "Hey, you're doing these marketing videos. I'm in marketing. I'm taking marketing class. What you said was really cool." And I was like, "Wow, okay." And I can't find a person's name, but if that person just happens to ever look at this and sees it, I'm definitely going to shout you out on Friday, but I want to shout you out again today because you made me feel like, okay, what I'm doing here is worth it. Like people are actually listening to me. And so very happy about that. And then I saw the ad revenue, and I'll be honest with you. You guys see all these commercials on here and they pay. Okay. Now, am I close to being a millionaire? No. Okay. It's just it was more than the one penny I thought would exist. I thought it would be just like, okay, I do this whole hour thing and I'll probably make a couple of pennies. And it's like, I'm not doing this for a couple of pennies. Like, nah, I'm good. I'm cool. You know what? I'm a really good DJ. I'm on the radio. Why am I doing this? Why am I sitting here talking, you know, to a bunch of people about these subjects and for a couple of pennies? Like, I just wasn't into doing it. But my perspective has changed, so I'm still new. So therefore, I can make these mistakes. I can make these mistakes because I don't have like a million people watching me right now and like expecting me to like be on. And I'm going to learn how to be on time. That's one of the things that I want to kind of commit to is just being on time and making sure that I'm reliable. Okay. Um, we do have a really great show today. I have some things that I'm going to be talking about. Now, I will tell you this, and I want you guys to understand what kind of show I'm going to do. I'm not the breaking news guy. Okay, I'm not TMZ. I'm not getting on here like TMZ. I'm more like 60 minutes. Okay, I'm 60 minutes. I'm the guy that once the things come out, I'm gonna do my research, not a deep dive, but it's a deep skim. I call it a deep skim, right? And kind of editorialize about various subjects that happen in music. Okay. I am educated, so I do have, a process that I go through in order that what I'm saying is entertaining, but it's not unethically done or said in order just to get clickbaits. I'm not doing clickbaity things. I'm not going to do the DJ Academics clickbait stuff. At the same time, not going to just do breaking news. Hey, this is what happened. Because as far as I'm concerned, breaking news, like I'd have to sit here literally all day in front of the computer. And did I mention to you guys, I'm a really great DJ. Like I'm actually a DJ. Okay. And I also produce music and I also have a radio show. So no, breaking news will not be me. But I am educated, so I can provide a perspective on things that I feel would be like helpful, not only to you as people who are watching it, but also to the culture. You know, I really do feel like, what I have to say is important and helpful to everyone, to the artists, to the creators, to the producers, lyricists that are involved in this music industry, this music culture. So I know that sounds a little narcissistic, like, oh, really? What you have to say is that important, mad scientist? Yes, what I have to say is that important. So, first thing we're going to talk about is the Drake versus Rob Markman situation. I'm not going to go into the blow for blow, play by play. Okay. If you want to know what happened, if you're not familiar with it, then I would invite you to go ahead and, you know, Google it, however you get your information, whether you get it from Google, Twitter, now X, or TikTok, however you get it, YouTube, go ahead and get the blow by blow and the play by play. Okay. I did see what Drake said, and I did listen to Rob Markman's point of view. And I also did hear a little bit about what Joe Budden had to say. So, like I said, I do a deep skim. I'm not doing a deep dive, but I'll skim. Okay. Um, but what I will say about this is it talks about the relationship more than anything between hip hop artists and hip hop media. What do I mean by that? Meaning that I think hip hop artists or artists in general, they love media at the beginning of their career. because they see media as a means to promote whatever they're doing. So if they got a new project out, love to go to media because they can just basically say, hey, you got a million people who follow you. Tell all your millions of people to come check out my album. Come check out whatever I'm doing, my album, my work, whatever I'm doing. I need your people to come check me out. And so I think a lot of artists think of media as pretty much just a promotional tool. And because of that, I think they missed the point. And uh, what this Drake versus Rob Markman says to me more than anything is that as long as Drake has been in this industry and with all the success that he's had, I think Drake still sees media as promotion as opposed to a discussion between himself as the artist or the producer or the lyricist and those who are educated about not only the creation process, but the production process and the cultural impact. A discussion between him and the person who may be just as knowledgeable, and because he's losing that, doesn't have that connection, he's doing things that are strange, just frankly strange. What do I mean by strange? He Drake is currently, and everyone knows this, he's currently in a lawsuit, civil lawsuit, because he felt like UMG, Universal Music Group, specifically Lucian, defamed him. That they allowed the song "Not Like Us" to be bigger than what it should have been, and in that song, Kendrick Lamar called him a person who an undesirable person. There we go. Called him an undesirable person, and because of that, he has been affected. Now you're in an active lawsuit, and it's very public. We're all watching it. And after that lawsuit was filed, Drake took himself, went on a public platform, Instagram, and told his millions of followers. Drake has a lot of followers. Like, I could look it up and find out. Let me look up and find out how many followers Drake has. Drake has millions of followers. I'm gonna guess probably 2 million, right? I'm gonna guess 2 million. Drake. How many millions of followers does Drake have? Champagne Poppy. He has 142 million. I guess 200, but I was wrong. He has 142 million followers. And he has called two people at this point, one being a politician in Canada, and the other person being Rob Markman, called him a goof. Now, some of you guys may say, especially the Drake followers, calling someone a goof is totally different than what Drake was called in that song. And that song right now has been sent out to billions and billions. Well, anybody can call Drake that. The point of the lawsuit is that you have a large entity that is choosing to call Drake what they called him, that undesirable person. If I were, and I only have on Instagram about 6,000 followers, if I were to call Drake an undesirable person to 6,000 people, I don't think the concern would be there, to be honest. I don't think that Drake would even know that it happened. Now, I would not call Drake an undesirable person. It's just not what I do. Um, but if I did, I don't think it would have that big of an impact. But the fact that UMG allowed that song to go out, UMG has access to billions of people. So Drake may feel like, yeah, I have 142 million followers, but UMG and all of his artists, specifically, Kendrick Lamar, I don't know how many followers Kendrick has. Let me find out how many followers Kendrick Lamar has. I'm suspecting it's going to be less than Drake. I was right. He only has 19.5 million followers. He's not even half of what Drake has, right? But Drake probably feels like, hey, listen, that's enough people. And then if you add to the fact all the other people around Kendrick, the people that had millions of followers that were, promoting the song, it's a lot of people calling Drake a bad person, an undesirable person. Um, so that would be an impact that he would have. So he may feel like, yeah, I need to sue. The issue I have with this situation with Drake is the fact that now you've essentially done to Rob Markman, who only has on YouTube about 34,000. He's not even close to Drake. If I were to look up Rob Markman on Instagram, he only has 87,000 followers. Okay. He's not even close to being as many followers as even Kendrick. So essentially what Drake has done is to Rob Markman what he claims that UMG did to him. Now, all that, I know you guys didn't come here for that. You're like, Norm, you're like mad scientist, so that's your deep skim. Like Drake is just a victim of his own actions. No, that's not my deep skim. My deep skim is this, and I think it needs to be said. All this is a distraction from what needs to be done, which is Drake needs to drop an album, point blank. He needs to drop a project, or not, or don't drop. It's not mandatory that Drake drops, but he needs to put out a project, not a song, not a let me put out a stream. All of the shenanigans of, oh, I'm gonna put out a stream and kind of cryptically, dude, just drop. Or like you said, drop, 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 drop. I mean, at this point, I think everything else is just a distraction. But back to my previous point of view, at the end of the day, if he did not have such an adversarial relationship with the media, then I really do feel like this is something that he would have already known. In fact, he might have won the battle. Part of the reason why he lost the battle is just he's just disconnected. And people felt that. People felt like if I were to talk to Drake and interview him, I would ask him like, why do you think that song resonated so much with so many people? Like, of all the things, I don't think like I would ask him, do you think people like that song Not Like Us because of the sensationalism of you being called a bad person? Or do you think that people felt like you're not like us? And I would be interested in knowing what his answer is. If I were to, if you were to ask me, I would tell him, "If- nobody thinks that you're a bad person, but we all think that you're not connected. We all feel that you are a very skilled artist, highly skilled. I mean, the people you have around you, highly skilled. And for someone like myself, who's a music producer, who's a DJ, who's an historian, I study music, I study the history of music. I literally want to write a. I have a piece that I've been wanting to write about him and Kanye. It's just that they keep doing things that just make me say, "Nah, not yet. It's not time." Like they're not ready for this piece, right? I have a really good piece that I like to write on both of them, right? Probably 1,000 words, um, explaining their relevance and and why they're important not only to the music industry but to hip hop culture. I can't seem to get around it because they keep doing things that just make me say, "Nah, not yet, not yet." But hopefully, I'll get that done because I think it's an important piece. But back to my point, yeah, I look at his team of people around Drake and highly skilled. And if anyone were to say, "Oh, well, Drake is not that good," I know there's people out there saying that he's not. They don't know what they're talking about. I've heard their argument. It's not really credible, but I understand that they have a platform and they got to push the narrative that they want to push. But if anybody were to argue with me about, you know, um, Drake's level of skill, I would just say his last name is says everything. Okay, his last name says everything. His lineage says it all. But I digress because that would get into a 1,000 word piece. Um, with that being said, what is missing is Drake's connection to the culture and the fact that he does not want to talk to media highlights the fact that he does not have the cultural connection. And my suspicion is that's why he's not dropping because now that he he has alienated himself away from people who have very high cultural connection, people like Rick Ross, who's very connected with the culture, people like, you know, um, um, 21 Savage, Metro Boomin, um, there's one more Future. These are gentlemen, French Montana. These are all people, Little Wayne, who are very culturally connected. Little Wayne is hip hop culture. Okay. Little Wayne is black people. Little Wayne is New Orleans. Little Wayne is Louisiana. Okay. But he's disconnected himself. So he can't, you know, Rihanna, she is Caribbean. She is Barbados. She is very culturally connected. And so because he has distanced himself from the culture, the people who can provide him the cultural cachet, my suspicion is he doesn't know what to drop. But his skill, his level of skill being that it is so high, he'll be able to throw out some singles. Nokia, great song. I play it all the time. But I don't think I'll be playing that song 3 years from now. The song, I'm not gonna, it doesn't have that replay value. It's not like, Get Low. Get Low, that song came out 2007. It's almost 20 years old. And I'm playing it this weekend, the entire weekend. Um, Same thing with Blow the Whistle. There are certain songs that are just going to carry for years. I don't think Nokia is going to be that song. Now, I don't think Not Like Us is going to be that song either. But just because the nature of the content, it's not. I mean, it's not going to carry. Okay. I think TV Off will carry. I think we'll be playing that song for about 5, 6 years because it's a really great song. And more importantly, um, Kendrick has cultural cachet and he has skill. But Drake has a lot of skill, but no cultural cachet. But at the end of the day, all these are just distractions. And I think what Drake needs to do, just go ahead and, as he says, drop, 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 drop. All right, listen, I do have some sponsors. First sponsor is the DJ Mad Scientist, me, Friday Night Hype. Every Friday night from 10 p.m. until 2 a.m. at Agave Ultra Lounge in downtown Long Beach. If you want to get in free, guest list is free until 11. Just go to Agave ultralounge.com, www.agaveultralounge.com. Get on the guest list and it's free before 11. We do like 90s, late 90s, 2000s vibe, hip hop, R&B. We also do the newest stuff. We do the Drake, we do Nokia, we do all the new stuff too, but we do a lot of like 2000s, early to mid 2000s stuff. So come on out every Friday night, Agave Ultra Lounge, downtown Long Beach. Speaking of cultural cachet, Cardi B. Now, Cardi B, just to give you the facts, she has a new single out, Imaginary Players. And her album will be dropping. Her album, Am I the Drama, is scheduled to release September 19th, 2025. Now, I sat down and listened to the interview that she gave on Apple Music. If you want to see the full interview, it's kind of boring, but it's an interview. It's Cardi B. Go to it. That way you can kind of see where she's at mentally right now. I know she's got some things going on in a court case. It's kind of hilarious, but I'm not really here to talk about that. I'm more here to talk about a couple things. Number one, I did hear the single, Imaginary Players, right? Now, I'm not from New York. So a lot of New York artists like Jay-Z, there are certain songs that come out and Jay-Z has, and they kind of blow up and they go everywhere. Example of that would be Girls, Girls, Girls. Um, another Hard Knock Life that blew up East and West Coast. So I understand those songs. And then the songs he had versus Nas, the Black Album, I feel like in 444, kind of universal. But there are some songs that only resonate in New York. Okay. And apparently, Imaginary Players, I didn't even remember this song. I didn't even remember it. I ain't gonna even lie to you. I was like, huh? But okay, so she does her rendition of Imaginary Players. And again, I'll be honest with you, I'm a big Joe Budden fan. So I listened to his show. Kind of like got busy, so I haven't caught up with everything that he's talked about. But I see some of the clips that get out. And one of the clips that got out was his thoughts on Cardi B doing Imaginary Players. Now, for me, the song doesn't resonate. It's just another Jay-Z song. But for Joe, it's one of those New York songs. It's like, yo, and in his mind, it's like, don't touch that song. Don't do that song. There's certain artists that if you're going to redo their music, you better redo their music. Like, this is, some of you guys are probably going to be like, huh? There's a song by Prince that actually No, let's do Shaka Khan. Shaka Khan has a song, "I'm Every Woman." Okay. Now, if you're into music, if you're into black music, Shaka Khan is a goddess. She's not a queen. She's a goddess. Shaka Khan is almost 80 years old and could out sing and outdo, singers 4 times younger than her. Okay. Shaka Khan is a singing goddess. So when Shaka Khan does a song and you decide to redo it, then you better redo that song. So when Whitney Houston redid Every Woman, I mean, she redid Every Woman. I'm getting goose pimples just talking about it because Whitney Houston's version of Shaka Khan's song, that right there was considered respect. Everyone can't do that. If you notice, we have a lot of singers out here. No one ever really does Stevie Wonder songs. You notice that no one ever does Stevie Wonder covers because most singers, and I'm including Chris Brown and Jeremiah, all the R. Kelly, they've never really redone. Okay, Jodeci redid it. They did Truly. And as much as people like Jodeci, it wasn't like, yay. It was more like, what are you doing? So when you have great artists out there and they do great music, there is a tendency for people to say, you know what? If you're gonna redo it, then you better like redo it. It better be like fly. It better be as good or better than the original. That's just in black music, that's just been a tradition. Okay. You gotta like know when to redo somebody's music and when not to. I listened to the song Imaginary Players by Cardi B. I would tell you go ahead and listen to it. If you are a hip hop head like myself and like Joe, I'll tell you straight up, you're not gonna like it. And which lends to the problem that I think Cardi B has. And this is my main point with the Cardi B interview that she had with Apple Music. I understand Apple Music is a large platform. They have over 1 million subscribers on the YouTube channel. So of course you got to go there. The problem with Cardi B going to Apple Music or a lot of um, these Anglo, media places is that Cardi B is very connected to the culture, but unfortunately, the people interviewing her are not. So the interview can come across as incomplete. That was how I felt with the Cardi B interview. Cardi B is what we love about Cardi B is she's very transparent. She's not going to lie to you. She's going to tell you exactly what she's thinking in the moment. And we feel like Cardi B has an authenticity that a lot of artists don't have. So when Cardi B is telling you like, yo, like I have 80 songs, I just haven't put them out because I don't think they're good enough. When you're connected to the culture, then you can ask the question like, Cardi B, what makes you think that you're not good enough for us? We love you and all your flaws. What about us makes you think that we would not accept you? And I'm pretty sure Cardi B would have an answer for that. And it's not a matter of reassuring her. It's a matter of understanding that she's going through a process that every artist goes through, especially when they have more cultural connection than they have skill. because then you could start finding out, okay, well, why do you have this anxiety? How much work have you put into developing your skill so that, and based on that answer, you can start asking more questions instead of her getting into the drama part, which she defaults to because she's recognizing, okay, this interview is not connecting. This interviewer is not deep skimming into the important parts. So then she has to then default to the, let me talk about the divorce. Let me talk about the drama. But clearly, she also says in the interview that she's trying to get away from the drama. But unfortunately, you go to Apple, Cardi, and they can't go deeper. They can't even skim. They can't even like superficially skim because they're not connected to the culture. Because most of us, the fact that you have 80 songs and you're like, well, they may not be good enough. Someone in your camp didn't tell you, like, yo, what they want is you. we're not looking at you to be the best rapper. We're looking at you to be the best Cardi. And if you think that some people, well, if I put it out, some people are going to hate it. Yeah, Cardi, that's, but that's why we love you, because you're brave enough to put yourself out there regardless and not care. And there's going to be some people who are going to say, you know what? I hate it. She has no skill. But then there's going to be others who are going to love it because you do something to us that the skilled people don't do, which is touch our hearts. Now, this is not a plea. I'm not pleading for a Cardi release. What I'm trying to give is a perspective that says, you know, there's two different types of artists. There's always been. There's been the highly skilled, highly trained artists, and then there's been the cultural artists. We see it in the 80s, okay, where, you know, R&B became very skilled, you know, people were just like plastic, okay? And then you, as opposed to people in the 70s, where you had people who are just like Parliament Funkadelic is just unapologetically black. And they were highly skilled, but they connected with us because they were connected to the culture. They were unapologetically black. Okay. And then you have people who were just not as skilled, like um, James Brown was not a musician at all. And compared to his contemporary, the people that are around during his time, he was not highly skilled. The people around his time were real musicians. They could play multiple instruments. You know, Aretha Franklin was a pianist. She could play the piano very well. She understood music theory very well. Watch her movie, her doc movie. She's a piano player since she was a little kid. So highly skilled pianist. James Brown was not as skilled as a musician as the people that during his time. But James Brown just loved being black. And he was very connected to black people. He was very connected to the culture. Okay. And he didn't care. He didn't care that he wasn't skilled. He was gonna put his stuff out. If it worked, it worked. If it didn't, he gonna keep it moving. And I think that whoever's around Cardi, they need to like, hey, listen, you're not a lyrical miracle rapper. You're like James Brown. You just know what's hot and you're willing to give us everything. James Brown go on that stage and sweat, give you everything. That's Cardi B. And you could become considered the great just having that cultural connection and being willing to put that out, put yourself out, put who you are out. Everyone told James Brown, the way his musical approach would not work. Man, you're just vamping, you're just vibing. There's no real structure to what you're doing. But James Brown just said, I don't care what you think. We're going to do what I want to do, or I'm going to fire you. And he fired a lot of musicians and fined them. Okay. That's where Cardi B needs to be. And, so when I go back to the beginning of the discussion where I talked about artists and their relationship to media, you only come out to media when you just want to push out your project. Okay, and I'm just gonna go to Apple because Apple has like 1 million followers on subscribers on YouTube. So, hey, I'll talk to, and you lose the point. So Drake ends up losing a battle because there's no cultural connection. You're not talking to anyone. You're not getting conversation. Cardi B takes forever to put out records thinking like, I'm not good enough. And the people who love Cardi B, which I'm one of them, I know that she's not the best rapper. I don't care. That's not why I like Cardi B. I like Cardi B because she's just Cardi B. Okay. Let's talk about my next sponsor, me. Once again, it's the Mad Scientist Saturday Brunch and Day Party. That's every Saturday from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. at Agave Kitchen in downtown Long Beach. Okay, we do the full-on brunch and day party. It's a really, really great time. I'm going to start bringing in people. In September, I'm going to bring in a comedian, Lenny Reed. He has a really great show that he does monthly at the Pasadena Ice House. It's always sold out every month. It's called 50 and Funny AF. I'm going to bring Lenny Reed out the first Saturday of September and to help me host. So it'll be a little bit more funnier that day. You get to eat, you get to drink, you get to dance, you get to celebrate life, culture, your birthday, girls do brunch, foodies brunch, whatever you want to call it. Once again, that's the Mad Scientist Saturday Brunch and Day Party every Saturday, 12 p.m. until 5 p.m. at Agave Kitchen in Long Beach. It's located at 200 Pine Avenue in the beautiful city of downtown Long Beach. It's a great area. Pine Avenue District is a really, really great area. Not going to be feeling like, oh, it's dangerous or something's going to happen. It's not over policed. It's not a bunch of tanks rolling down the street at the same time. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of nearby parking. You can park for 2 hours for free. It's very secure. And like I said, plenty of space for you to have. We have parties of 20, parties of 30 all the time. And people have a really good time. And you can dance. You can actually get up out of your seat and you can dance around. Okay. Last story. Oh, well, not last story, but last pretty much what we're going to talk about. Doja Cat. Now, let me give you what's going on with Doja Cat. She has a new single out. It's called Jealous Type. It's kind of an 80s vibe. I've listened to it. Well, let me just say this. She has a new album titled VIE, and it's scheduled for release September 26, 2025. So I suspect that Doja Cat and Cardi B will be battling for position on urban charts. We'll see like which one does what. Now, I got a chance to listen to Doja Cat's new single, Jealous Type. I'm just gonna say I didn't like it. Now, let me back up because I'm a big fan of Doja Cat too. But I'll be honest with you, I'm a fan of Doja Cat, the rapper. Now, if you go to her bio, she says the first thing she is a rapper. On this particular song, I think she's trying to highlight, I'm going to be a singer. In fact, she also had an interview with Apple And she even said, I'm becoming a more of a singer. And I'll tell you this. Doja Cat is the opposite of Cardi in that Doja Cat is highly skilled, highly skilled. And the people she has around her, highly skilled. She reminds me of a female Drake. The biggest difference is that Drake kind of marries himself with people who have the cultural connection, whereas Doja Cat typically does not. And when she does connect with people, they're usually like white supremacists. Okay. Now you're probably thinking, mad scientist. So you are a fan of a black white supremacist? Yes. Okay. As most of you guys know, I listen, at the end of the day, I love music. I study music. I'm a I wouldn't call myself a musicologist, although I could be. Primary reason why I did study um music theory and I did get very good grades. But the thing about music theory is that you use it as a reference tool. There are people who use it as a reference tool. That's what I do. When I write a song or I produce a song, I know what key I need to be in, and I know how to put together chord progressions. I don't need help putting together chord progressions, right? Okay. But I don't continuously like practice um music theory, which there are people who do that. They actively are practicing analyzing music, you know, cataloging chord progressions, cataloging musical techniques in every song, you know, editorializing different music, you know, discussing it, teaching it. There are people who do that. I consider those people musicologists. Okay. I am someone who is just trained in music theory and I use music theory as a reference. Okay. So when I see someone like a Doja Cat, when I see someone like an Ariana Grande, when I see someone, it doesn't matter to me, you know, what genre of music they're in, but when I see someone who is highly skilled at something, and Janaea Kyle, she's not really popular, highly skilled. Janaea Kyle is highly skilled. Okay. But so I like seeing those type of people. I like studying them. Okay. I like to see when someone is highly skilled at something and they know how to execute it. You know, it's like the athlete who watches the game. You know, like I have friends who played football for real and they're watching the linemen and what they're doing. And they're like, oh, yeah. And they can, you know, or they play defense and they can tell what kind of coverage they're in. I just watch football. I don't know the game of football like that. If the quarterback throws the ball far and someone catches it, I'm excited. If he hands the ball off and the runner runs far and fast, I'm excited. But I don't know all of the skill technicalities of football. Okay. I do know the skill technicalities of music. And when I see it, I enjoy watching it. So for Doja Cat, for me, she is very skillful, has been. She since day one. If you can go back to her first release, it's you can see it there. And over time, she has gotten better and better and better. Like her level of skill is incredible. So for this album, she's doing an 80s kind of themed album. And that kind of makes sense to me because I think the thing about 80s music and the reason why a lot of people get pulled to it is because it's not just the writing of the music, but everyone knows that the best songwriting was done in the 80s. Okay. I would say between 60s, 70s, and 80s. But the height of songwriting came in the 80s. Okay. So, the emotional songwriting, the technicalities of the songwriting, high level. Because I mean, during the 80s, you got to remember you have Prince, you have Michael Jackson, and you have some of the most prolific, you know, emotional folk. The 80s is where you get what's his name? Born in the USA, that guy. You have a couple of, I can't think of their names right now, but you get the Police, you get Sting in the 80s. I mean, you get so many great songwriters. So there is a there is a desire to go back during that time and see how well you can compete against pretty much the best of the best. When you're talking about 80s songwriting, I'm talking about lyricists and composers. You want to go back to the 80s to see if you're the best. Okay. The 80s, you know, the 60s, 70s, and 80s, bar none. You want to test yourself in those 3 decades to see if you're really, really good. And Doja Cat being a musical athlete, I understand why she would want to go back to the 80s. So I don't have a problem with that, to be honest. Um, I'm going to listen to the album. I'm going to be interested in seeing how she pulls it off. I don't like the first one because I like her more as a rapper. I personally wish that Doja Cat would go and get with J. Cole and his team. J. Cole's an actual producer. So he's probably not gonna, I don't know if he's gonna rap anymore, but I wish she would go J. Cole, maybe a Ninth Wonder, myself, and really get with a hip hop producer and do a hip hop album. Scarlet Part Two, man, I love that. I love that album. In fact, one of my favorite songs on that album is "Acknowledge Me." I love when she raps. Her just coming out singing. I get it. I understand. She is a musical athlete and highly skilled. And then not only do you have the songwriting, but just the sound creation, because they use a lot of synths. You have to create the sounds. So that takes a certain amount of skill. Then there's performance. There's a lot of dancing that's going to come with it. There's a lot of visuals that are going to come with it. So I get her doing it, and I give her a high level chance of being able to pull it off. Um, I just wish that she would go ahead, and this is just a personal wish. I wish she would go ahead and just do that hip hop album that she's always talking about, as opposed to just being an avatar. That's kind of like how I would call her at this moment, just a musical avatar, of like fantasies, and that's just my opinion. I'm not saying that it's correct, but that would be my opinion. All right, we're gonna end it off with some thoughts and some prayers. Um, Many of you guys may know there was a shooting at a Catholic school in Minneapolis. Um, Not going to really go into depth with everything that happened, but just to kind of give you a quick synopsis for those who maybe didn't know because you were at work. A shooter opened fire with a rifle through the windows of a Catholic church in Minneapolis and struck children celebrating Mass during the first week of school, killing 2 and wounding 17 people in an act of violence the police chief called absolutely incomprehensible. Okay. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara said the shooter, armed with the rifle, shotgun, and pistol, approached the side of the church and shot dozens of rounds through the window toward the children sitting in the pews during Mass at the Annunciation Catholic School just before 8:30 a.m. Police believe the shooter then died by unaliving himself. Okay. Um, we can get into the politics of, Should we have guns? Should we not have guns? That's not what I do. I know a lot of people are like, forget about thoughts and prayers. Well, that's all I got for you. Okay. Sorry to say that, but that is all I have for you is thoughts and prayers. So I'm going to give thoughts and prayers. Okay. Um, you know, I pray for those families that have to bury their children. That's incredibly heartbreaking. Um, I send out my prayer to you guys, and I know nothing will ever um, make this better. There's nothing I can say other than just tell you that I pray for you and that I feel bad for you because I'm a parent, but I'm a blessed parent in that my son is a grown person. He's a man doing very well, very successful. And every time I see his success, um, I have a feeling of such completeness as a human. And I have a feeling of joy, a feeling of pride. Um, I love my son. And even though me and him argue more than I lecture, like I try to lecture him, but then he's old enough to argue with me back. When he was a kid, I could just like lecture him and he wouldn't argue back, but now he can argue back. And sometimes he makes good points. Okay. Sometimes he makes a good point and it'd be like, you know, but I can do that. And whether I win or lose the debate with my son, I'm happy. If I lose the debate, I'm still happy. I'm like, oh, you made a good point. All right. If I totally win, I'm happy because I'm like, hey, I'm still relevant in my son's life. Um, there are parents there tonight in Minneapolis that will not have that feeling with those particular kids. And that's heartbreaking. That's sad. Um, and so for the people who say, well, thoughts and prayers don't work, I would say sometimes it's all we have. And because there's no policy that's going to make people whole again, you know? There's no policy that's going to do that. And so sometimes the prayer that you give is that somehow they find peace. Sometimes you pray that they find the strength to find the peace. Um, and you just pray and hope for the best that somehow it'll just stop. I don't know, just stop. Maybe we won't need a policy, but maybe it'll just stop. So, okay, everybody, listen, that's my show for this week. I will be here every week. I really like what I did today. I really like the fact that I was able to, provide an overall point, which is artists. You guys need to start talking to media and don't just go. I mean, yeah, I get it. You got to go to the Apples because they have so many followers, but come to people like myself and other people who understand the culture so that we can have conversations. We can have conversations that are constructive. So as you're going through your process, of creating, you're getting the benefit of conversation, which I really feel like, in my opinion, is lost in all of this technology. We have all this technology, and yet we don't have conversation. And conversation really is the thing that keeps human beings going. All right, I'll see you guys. Some of you guys, I'll see you guys on Friday at 6 p.m. For all you technical people that want to talk about music marketing, I'll see you on Friday, 6 p.m. right here. For those who just want the hot takes, I'll see you next Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here. This is DJ Mad Scientist, and thank you guys so much for coming through. I appreciate y'all once again.